with Republic TV. Dear viewers, remember on 1st of February, two brave Indian Air Force pilots, Squadron Leader Samir Abrol and Squadron Leader Siddharth Negi, were killed in a crash during test flight. Today, Squadron Leader Samir Abrol's wife's social media post on the sacrifices made by her husband should actually send out a very strong, stern and a very clear message to the political class and especially the bureaucracy alike. She has sent out a strong appeal against the flying coffins and how corruption has led to her husband's untimely death. The post written by Garima Abrol, we are going to in fact show to our viewers that extremely emotional post written by Garima Abrol, and I quote, "And as he fell from the sky onto the ground with broken bones, all but a black box was found. His ejection was safe, but parachute caught fire, shattered the family and all that he desired. Never had he breathed so heavy as for the last time, while the bureaucracy enjoyed its corrupt cheese and wine. We gave our warriors outdated machines to fight. They still deliver it with all their prowess and might. Once again, a martyr was killed as he fell from the sky onto the ground. Unforgiving is a job of a test pilot. Someone has to risk it to show others the light. Proud of my husband, fights on always, my Batman, Jai Hind." Well, this is an extremely overwhelming and very, very emotional piece written by Garima Abrol on her husband's untimely death. Republic TV's Nalini has been tracking the story and she's joining us live on this broadcast. Nalini, especially, where she's talking about how, because there was some technical failure, I mean, that's the message that really comes out of this emotional piece. It was only a black box which was found at the end of the day, but then somewhere down the line, the compromises at certain level. Because at the end of the day, he was a test pilot. And what exactly led to that horrific accident?
Well, Sakal, that's exactly what we've been trying to narrow down to, exactly what went wrong on that particular flight that led to the fatal death of these two Air Force pilots. And what we've been given to understand is that just about when that flight was about to take off from the HAL airport in Bangalore, one of the wheels came out from the flight, because of which there was imbalance and there was a technical difficulty with the flight, which eventually caught fire. So even though both of the Indian Air Force test pilots had evacuated and ejected from the aircraft itself safely, Samir Abrol himself unfortunately landed on the wreckage of the aircraft, because of which he could not survive. And Siddharth Negi, who was his co-pilot in this entire flight, although when he landed on the ground, he was still alive, but he later succumbed to his injuries as he was being taken to the HAL hospital just in the vicinity. So the problem initially was because of the manufacturing of the flight itself, because there was something wrong with the flight. Now, we've also been given to understand that there has been a post also put out by an anonymous pilot who works with the HAL, who says that he personally had tested this particular flight 6 times before it was handed over to the Indian Air Force pilots. But at the same time, of course, it's a loss unparalleled, especially for the defense forces of the country and for the entire country. And today, the entire India joins their families in sorrow to pray for these two departed souls.
I think it also really requires for all of us to take a pause and really think how these stories are really lost in this political humdrum. Nalini, let's go back to that excerpts from that very, very emotionally written piece by Garima Abrol. I want to draw your attention to that line where she says, and I quote, "His ejection was safe, but parachute caught fire, shattered the family and that all he desired." Really, it sends out a very strong hint, a strong message here that my husband, who was professionally a trained pilot, he was trained as far as safe ejections in such unusual flight testing situations is considered. But then it was the parachute which caught fire and led to his untimely demise.
Absolutely, Sakal. In these lines that you just quoted, she's describing exactly what went down during this entire accident because, like I was stating earlier, they had ejected safely. Both the pilots, in fact, had ejected safely from the aircraft, but both of their parachutes had caught fire by the time that they had landed. So, this is the reason why even the doctor who conducted the postmortem had said that both of them had very severe burn injuries on their body, which ultimately led to their untimely demise. So, keeping that in mind, these lines are very appropriately penned down by his wife, of course, in deep sorrow, but at the same time very appropriately penned down because that is exactly what went down. And as disheartening as it is and as heartbreaking as it is unfortunately these are not the first Air Force pilots that we are seeing who've seen this sort of calamity happen right before their eyes, because the point is that it is high time that somebody comes up, steps up and takes responsibility, because it is not only these pilots who are laying their life on the line for the country, but it is also their families who eventually suffer. And forget the fact that it's a massive loss to the nation and to the forces of the country, but at the same time it is the families who truly suffer, and that can be felt in this poem that has been penned down by Garima Abrol herself.
Air Marshal P.K. Barbora, Air Marshal P.K. Barbora is joining us on phone line. Nalini requesting you to stay with us, sir. I mean, I'm just quoting few lines, and nothing actually can really compensate for the loss of these two brave pilots as far as their families are considered. You know, the wife of the wife of Pilot Abrol, she says that, and I quote, "We give our warriors outdated machines to fight. They still deliver it with all their prowess and might." She also goes on to say that never had he breathed so heavy as for the last while the bureaucracy enjoyed its corrupt cheese and wine. I mean, how do you really look at this? What really went wrong? Our pilots are well trained to contain the situation during test flying. But then, is this something we're going to forget about and move on? Or there is an inquiry into it? Are we going to get into the crux of the matter and take lessons from this horrific accident where we've lost two brave pilots?
Listen, as far as I'm concerned, I've given to the Air Force itself 40 and a half years, okay, of service. Before that, training of 1.5 years of flying and about 1 year in NDA. There's a hell of a lot of time I've given for this country. And we have never learnt our lessons. Why? Because there's so much of interference at the political level. With all due respect, whichever party is in power, we are flying 50% of our fighter aircraft of today are of the technology of 50s and 70s. This is a fact of life. Then, if you don't have a high technology or latest technology, you are obviously firstly putting yourself at risk there. Next, with all due respects, my opinion on HAL has been documented many times. I can tell you one thing, that's a huge big white elephant as far as fighter aircraft is concerned. They are not manufacturers of aircraft by any chance. They can't even assemble an aircraft properly. And this is the problem I presume in the court of inquiry will find out in respect of this accident. That it leads to a technical problem. It is the saddest thing that we have two families now to try and wake up the nation. Won't the people question, what are we people? Are we call ourselves Indians? We are there in the defense services, Army, Navy, Air Force and paramilitary to serve this nation so that the nation can grow. And we give an environment of safety all around. But we are not there to give our lives for people who are negligent in their job. We have tried our best in the Air Force to put a senior Air Force officer to oversee the production at HAL. And it has never been agreed to. Very sad in the recent past. What happened then next? With all due again apologies, whenever we have asked for latest technology aircraft, look at the Rafale deal has been continuing for such a long time. I'm not saying the Mirage 2000 is bad by any chance. No, sorry. It's not bad. It's very good. We are upgrading it.
Okay.
But why are we doing all this when we could have got aircraft if both opposition and the government thought about national security in the proper manner? We are willing to die in a war, but not being killed.
Right, sir.
Not being killed. It's sad. Very, very sad. 3 lakh crores have been granted to the budget of the defense services this year. Do you know, as far as we are concerned, if people can read, it is 1.45% of the GDP. The lowest ever. This is my calculation. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. It's the lowest percentage of GDP that
Air
we
Marshal
have got in the
Barbora.
last 10 years.